Writing an angel check is easy. Knowing why is the flex. Angel investing. Underused, misunderstood, explained badly. Angels Decoded, an educated and raw take. In cahoots with Play Money.
The biggest threat to local startup ecosystems isn't a lack of capital. I mean, that's part of it, but it's that old school angel group that thinks it's the gatekeeper.
It's a really fascinating power struggle that doesn't serve anyone's purpose at all.
No, it doesn't. And I think, based on what I've seen, and I've seen this a lot in local regional angel groups, but I've seen it also in ones that work in other areas that are a little more old school. And I would call it the three deadly sins of the old school angel group.
I love it. And I'm not a churchgoer, but I know the 7 deadly sins. So what are the 3 deadly sins? Just high level, what are they?
So, all right, I'll give them to you and then we can break them down. Sin number 1, hoarding your diligence. Sin number 2, putting rules on your members and forcing them to write big checks. And then sin number 3, and this one I hadn't encountered till this week, really, it's focusing people's energy on being directly on the cap table and associating that with status. 3 deadly sins: hoarding diligence, forcing big checks, and prioritizing cap table status.
I look at that, and if you've been listening to Angels Decoded, we're at episode number 20 now, and we've covered those themes, all 3 of those sins, in separate episodes, because it's some of the faux pas that we see that are real problems that actually cause issues and blockages with capital flowing, supporting early stage startups. So if you've got one controlling body that has the weight of power on investment from an angel standpoint in a local community, all of a sudden that gateway creates a problem. And if you're putting all 3 problems together, then that is compounding and has a real negative effect.
It's unfortunate because if you flip every single one of them, those groups become cornerstones and the missing link in all of these new regional startup ecosystems that have expertise, they have startup knowledge, they may have 1 or 2 exits, they've had accelerators coming in for years, and the missing link is usually local capital, and the group that could anchor that is already there. And it's a choice between scarcity and abundance, and if they lean towards abundance, I think these ecosystems could just explode.
And I love that Cheryl Kellond here is repping Birmingham, Alabama in her sweatshirt today. For those of you listening, check the video out. You can see how beautiful Cheryl looks in blue. And this, for me, was fascinating. And a look inside local economies and the positive impact of tax benefits, of local exits, reinvesting into local community. But if you have a blocker in an angel group that actually inhibits that, then it's counterintuitive to what is actually happening at a greater scale in each state.
Mm-hmm. I think, I would say that truly the biggest block or the most egregious sin to me is the one on hoarding diligence, right? Because you have co-created something with the founder that can either be an asset they use to leverage and raise money faster, or you put them back into the grind of great, you got your checks from us, and now you've got to do that work over and over and over again. And it's the most counterintuitive one because once you invest in a company, you want them to thrive. You want to get them back to building their business. And the differences in the trajectory of a company, whether the angel group hoards their diligence and keeps it to just themselves or spreads it to bring other investors in and do that lift for the founders, I've seen recently that can be $1 million difference.
So if an angel group is doing it right, how should they do that when they're representing the interests of lots of people and they're trying to open capital for a startup? Everyone has a mutually beneficial outcome if they get it right. So what does that look like?
I think it looks like a few different things. First, it's make that diligence available to anyone else looking at that founder. There is a long established big money moving angel investor group that focuses on women that is known for hoarding their diligence. And they're like, nope, we wrote our check, we did our diligence, we have it here, we're not going to share it with you. And I've watched founders go through a similar diligence process, hours of diligence with 3 or 4 different angel groups after that because the first group didn't share. So if you share that diligence and then also share the deal, share it with other angel groups, share it with investors you know, share it with individuals you know. I'm a part of one angel group, and the founder of that group does such a great job sharing her deal flow once it's been diligence. One of the companies we recently looked at, maybe the group did maybe $200,000 for that company, but because the founder of the angel group shared it, they pulled in $1 million check from a VC. That's crazy.
And it's in everyone's best interest, right? More capital is giving that startup a greater chance of success, which means that everyone collectively has a higher chance of getting a payout at the back end and their investment multiplying. So to block it is the wrong path. To open it up is a stronger path. Is there anything from a time management perspective that you need to be aware of? Because if you're opening up diligence to everyone and everyone feels like that they want to have a role in that conversation, how do you manage a timeline so it doesn't hemorrhage it and it just hits a bottleneck?
I mean, you manage it within your own group and whatever your process is. Like I can throw a little shade because I've seen plenty of local angel groups like put a founder through too much work and diligence. Like 10 hours of work for an angel group to decide to write a check is too much because it just is. But you don't have to bring all those potential outside people into your diligence. You have to share the fact that you've done it, spread the reason you believe in the company, and then let all the other nodes decide, what their next move is. But the key piece is putting the deal in front of people. We work with a number of emerging fund managers on Play Money who will write a check into a deal and then they'll put their deals on their platform. And we increasingly see, just because other people were exposed to the deal, we have a family office will follow on and put in $100,000. We'll have another emerging VC discover the deal and decide to write a $250,000 check. And it's all because the person that discovered the company and did the initial work realized that their job is to amplify the work they did to get that founder funded as quickly as possible. It's a mindset thing, right? It's an abundance mindset.
And episode 19, we touched on the impact of local communities, but we also unpacked a little bit around the arbitrage. Because if you're opening the capital opportunity to VCs and more traditional capital, then you're actually starting to regionalize that distribution, which again has such a positive flow-on effect as well. So if you're thinking as a local angel investor about helping your local community, more exposure to that company at a national level, not just a local level, is significant.
That was actually, that was one of my biggest ahas for my trip to Alabama. Someone pointed out to me, she's like, you're taking our locally funded startups and you are bringing in national capital to our ecosystem. And we've done that to Alabama companies. I mean, I think we're about to hit $250,000 of non-Alabama capital going there. And that's a big deal. Outside capital matters because that also comes with outside connections, outside amplification, and outside expertise.
I love it. And that's the story that needs to be told. It needs to be told to locally elected officials. It needs to be told to local angel groups, accredited investors, because they're the things that make a difference. If people hear that data, and for some, it may sound like a small amount, but it's not insignificant. That could change a local community in the space of a year or two, right? Where more jobs, more stable local economy, putting them on the map, that there's such a positive flow and effect that happens as a result.
Absolutely. And that's, one side of the coin, share what you've learned and spread it broadly and give it national exposure because you'll pull in outside capital. The flip side of that is also, and these local angel groups sit in the middle of this, expand your local investor base. That's the other piece that I see a lot of gatekeeping happening on.
And the part two that I don't think a lot of angels realize is that VCs often individually have their own angel investment portfolio as well. So if you're talking to a fund, they'll have their own company-wide investment they're representing on behalf of their LPs. But as individuals, quite often they're writing angel checks and like to get in early because it actually builds deal flow for them as well. That they're in the loop on early stage deals that allows them to look at a larger scale further down the track relevant to what stage they're at from a fund perspective.
Sometimes they can do that. Sometimes they're barred from doing that because of their agreements with their LPs. But increasingly, especially when it's regional, they can carve out and write their own checks for sure. And again, those people, they like to share their deal flow. They're modeling the right behavior that the local group should do a better job following or have an opportunity to do.
So let's go on to the second one, which was the minimum check size. Where does that come from?
I think It's a holdover from the days where checks had to be big because there was no way to do smaller checks efficiently. And there is some rationalization in it because to make it worth a founder's time, you want to be able to move a certain amount of capital, but it's an old school way of thinking. Like angel investors are not old, retired white men with pot bellies who are, locally rich anymore. The most exciting money coming into this space, and like that's going to make up the bulk of the capital really soon, is from a new class of angels. They're younger, they've got busier lives because they're mid career, they have families, they look different, they act different. And so the old rules about you have to attend our monthly meetings, you have to write minimum check sizes of $10,000, you have to promise us to write 5 checks a year. It's a weird hazing and initiation rite. And when you talk to these groups, they'll tell you, well, our membership is dwindling. Well, we're, trying to shake down our members to get capital flowing again. I'm like, expand your group by changing the rules. I had a long conversation with an angel from South Carolina that would like to be working with her local angel group, but they have a certain minimum check size. And she's like, you know what? I've done the portfolio math. I can't write 50 checks of $10,000 each. I can write 50 checks of $5,000 each or $2,500 each. So don't try to fit me into an outdated model, not based on data and not right sized for me. I'm not going to play.
Particularly today, where the formalization of an SPV means that the old legacy is redundant now because you're able to manage the administration, legal tax part of that in such a simple way. So if it's $1,000 or $100,000, it doesn't change anything.
No, it doesn't. Unless you're being a local angel group and you're like, I don't want to spend any money on my SPV, so I'm going to manage them locally, right? And so having $1,000 investor in an SPV that you manage yourself on paper, like, yeah, that's a pain. Maybe don't manage them on paper. It's time to grow up. The automated systems for that exist and you should use them.
Yeah. And it's so automated now too. And from a compliance perspective, it also reduces risk significantly with what you're doing.
Massive. I mean, think about a local angel group where the leaders of that group are aging up and getting older, and you're sitting on an SPV that needs to be managed for the next 15 years. Like, that's just not responsible stewardship.
100%. Okay, number 3, cap table.
You know this is my hotspot. So many of these local groups are, again, a little bit old school, and they're like, well, we vetted you, we're giving you checks, we should all go on the cap table. I worked with one last week, and they didn't even educate their members on why it might be more beneficial for a founder for their smaller checks to come in through an SPV. It was just of course, we're going to be on the cap table. We did the diligence. And it's limiting in a few ways. I mean, we've talked about this at length. There's a real cost to the founder to have people directly on their cap table, but also it goes back on your ability to share. If you use your local angels to anchor that SPV, you now have an instrument that the founder can share to raise money from other people. You can now put it on a platform like Play Money, where national eyes can get on that deal. You've let the deal travel in a way that if you all put your money directly on the cap table, can't happen. So you're like holding the founder back and not giving them a tool to accelerate all at the same time.
And I was just doing a quick search. Episode number 4, we went deep on cap tables and the pros and cons. And I encourage everyone to go back and listen to that because it's really important to understand foundationally the impact it has on both sides and shaking the legacy of old knowledge that somehow seems to hold on to this way of operating. So we need to stamp that out.
And I'm gonna repeat it again as an abundance mindset thing, right? All of these things from the point of view of the person running the angel group, it's if we changed our behavior just a little bit from scarcity to abundance, that founder is going to get funded faster. They're going to get more high quality people involved in their company. And you as the angel are going to set yourself up for a better return. Like there's so much potentiality there. It's frustrating to see these groups fight themselves on it because they're not thinking 3 steps forward about how to make their region this amazing hub of innovation that everyone knows about. And so everyone goes around wearing sweatshirts from their favorite other parts of the country.
Fun potentiality. I love that word. I'm going to adopt that one. one, it's not in my vocab right now, so I'm dropping that in. But two, absolutely. What we're talking about is the ability to help local communities, and that has a multiplier effect. I've actually just written an article, it's not out yet, and it's based off a report by a guy called Richard Florida, whether that's his real name or not. He sounds like a magician that's on Atlantic City or something, but he wrote a report called Meta Cities, and it's about the impact of remote work, particularly startups are having on regional, medium-sized cities on their economy, because people who are earning good, high startup tech salaries are actually going to these places and having a positive effect because their cost of living is cheaper, so they have a higher disposable income, and they're growing these cities as well. And that's what we're talking about, is how do you distribute wealth across a whole country rather than centralized in pockets, because that myopic effect of people all investing in each other's companies in this little old man's club, which we need to completely pull apart, is something that is shifting. And seeing that report and then hearing your stories of local communities, for me, gives me hope.
Love that. I want to get my hands on that report. It sounds super interesting.
Very fascinating. So to leave today, we like to put on a bit of a legacy and a takeaway. If you're an angel investor and tomorrow you want to start driving this change and get rid of these 3 deadly sins, you can't go to confession, but what can you do?
You can put on your abundance mindset hat and say, what can I do to be the catalyst for this founder that I love to raise capital faster? And how does that let me be a catalyst for helping the community I'm involved in just explode?
I love it. And be curious, ask questions, and try and understand why rules exist. You don't need to be combative. It's just being curious and asking some questions, right? That can be slightly loaded, but just be curious.
Yeah, that's what I am. I am very curious. I'm not combative. Curious.
That's a reframe on the same question.
I love it.
Cheryl Kellond, this was episode number 20 of Angels Decoded, my favorite time of the week. Thank you again for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I know.
Angels Decoded, a weekly podcast for people learning the craft. Angel investing made easy. Subscribe, then decide. Angels Decoded, in cahoots with Play Money.